This video is sponsored by your local hillbilly from his hillbilly mansion called the Ford 9-inch rear end made easy. And this one a lot easier than I thought. I want to get something here. Take a look at what I have there on that table, because that's basically all you're going to need. And this is my lucky screwdriver. This thing's been with me through so many adventures and misadventures. I don't know. It's one of my best friends. And I introduce a lot of my favorite tools. But this is my yoke puller you couldn't see so well in that other video. It's what it ended up to be. Nice and welded up tight. But guess what? I didn't need this. That yoke slid right off of the splines. I mean, just whoop, off it came. I mean, no coaxing, no pulling. It was loose on there. So anyway, this is what I was telling you when Advanced Auto Parts and them were telling me that these seals were going to be like $50 some. That's what I paid at AutoZone for those two seal numbers, and they're in the Duralast brand, and they are a national seal. So I have a lot of work to do here before the weather turns really sour. And I'm getting nothing done. As I said, I'm standing at the parts counter talking to people just no comprende English, or they have an educational level maybe of 4th or 5th grade. I don't know. But this is all you're going to need. Now, how am I going to get that fluid out? Because a couple of these videos have you convinced that there is a drain plug on the bottom of a Ford 9-inch rear end. Now, maybe they did make some 9-inch Fords with a drain plug. However, I've never seen one, and Ford is pretty foreign to me. I think the number of Ford 9-inch rear ends I've worked on were maybe about a half a dozen. Two of those were in my race car, and we actually put the drain plug in the bottom. And the first one, we made a mistake because we stripped it out because we were young and stupid, and we had to take it to a shop, a specialty shop, to have a specialty weld. We actually had a nut welded to the bottom of the rear. So we did that with the stock car for a reason, and that rear actually expired because when we lost an axle out of it, it blew the rear end apart, and the car came down on that plug and just shredded the rear end. So that's how we got the second one. We still did the same thing. The chances of shearing a wheel off of one of those in a stock car. Now, like I said, nowadays they have rears that go in the stock car with the quick change, but that's what made the Ford 9-inch rear end, guys. That's what made it famous. That whole third member pulls right out of those 9 inches. There's a bolts around it, and the whole pumpkin comes out. Okay, I don't even, if I recollect, I don't think you even have to take the I think you do have to pull the axles. I think you do. But that whole rear end, it just comes right out of there. This was my answer in a GM rear. You could suck the fluid like this, one of these big syringe tubes. That one's a little frozen from being on my workbench in the heat. This, since you cannot get that in there, just like every Ford I've ever known, they throw a monkey wrench into everything that it turns into more difficulties than you want to. Now, if you don't have a drain plug, because most 9-inch rears do not have a freaking drain plug, and to pull that rear all apart when you really don't want to, like me, that is not a race car, okay? It's just a custom old truck. And the bearing that I'm looking at, and what I'm looking at with my endoscope inside the rear end, it looks pretty decent. It's just that the fluid in there had a lot of water. That seal, the old seal, he was leaking pretty bad. So I guess I would assume that water hits that rear end with a lot of force when you're going through puddles and stuff. But there was a lot of water, either that or this guy. I'm so sick of this kid that where I got this truck from, and I don't mean Slippers. I'm talking about the kid that owned it. You know, he was full of so much bullshit. But anyway, there was so much water in that rear. It had to have been a salvage yard rear, and there are trucks that come in with rebuilt rears and stuff. But the stuff sits outside in the salvage yard, and it gets years of weather on it before somebody ever buys it. And then they want extort. And one of the things is they want extorted prices for junk, and the guy that really needs it, he don't have a whole lot of money in his pocket to begin with, because he probably takes care of his vehicle. But you're going to need an 1 16" socket and your impact to take that nut off. And I'm pretty much going to be done in about an hour. Now, the other panic is with you newbies to this stuff, doing it yourself. How do I get the goddamn fluid? Once you see that the plug port is in the side of the rear. What I do, prior to cutting my tip, don't cut your tip first, okay? This is one of the ways you gotta go underneath and see how you're gonna hold your bottle, because this little handle can be mighty convenient. Now, I tend to do this, okay? So I can control the flow, and I can squeeze this. Actually, I'm like this in this position, and I can squeeze this. So I drill a little hole here. I'll drill that hole just right, and if you squeeze, okay, no matter which way, you are going to be able to get that fluid out of there. Now, you're probably going to get some out of the backside, so have some pity covers ready, because this stuff, if you wash your hands, I don't care how many times, and you eat your sandwich, you're going to smell it. Gear oil is one of the nastiest fluids you're going to work with, outside of some of that the CVT transmission fluids. So basically, I'm almost done. And when you take your air gun to get that fluid out of that rear end, listen, folks, do not throttle that air gun. Some compressors have 100, 125. Mine has like 155 pounds of pressure. All you want and you can increase it, because what happens is if you go in there and you're underneath there and your face happens to be there when you're working on the ground like I am with ramps, you're going to end up smelling like that for quite a while. Your girlfriend or your wife is probably going to make you sleep down on the frickin' sofa, okay? Because like I said, washing your hair, washing your hands, wear covers, and do not get this stuff on you, because it'll haunt you for a week or two, and I swear to God it will. And especially that CVT transmission fluid, it smells like straight up cat urine. So Frank was here, my buddy. He thought the cat did the nasty in my shop when I was working on that. Finally, we got my son's Nissan. That's his work car, his personal car, because some of our other cars are his, and they belong to the family, the kids. I'm not a greedy father. I share my things, and I do things for my kids. I'll cut my own throat. I would give my organs to my children. That's how I am. I gave my kids life, and I want to see them sustain their lives. So I go way out of my way for my kids. But basically, that's all you're going to need. And Mr. Yoke Puller, I really didn't need him. Now, I might need him on the front yoke. I don't know yet. And I think I might need a different set of holes here yet, too, because I think that yoke is a little bit smaller. Then, driving your seal in. A lot of people, they got to go out and buy a driver. That bad boy fits right in there. It's something I had. So explore your toolbox. Pull the seals out of the box maybe a couple days prior to doing the job, and see if you have something that you don't have to go right out and buy something. Because right now in this economy, shit sucks. It really does. So I'm going to get done. I'm burning daylight here. In the winter, it gets dark right here at 4 o'clock. So I have about another 3 hours of working time. It warmed up very nice today. It's a perfect day to do this, because I'm tired of smelling gear oil in my driveway. The drip was getting pretty extensive, and I could tell that, I can always tell when there's water in a rear end, because the gear oil to me, not to everybody, that's how I told my son, I can smell if a car has a bad engine, I can smell it. Now, a lot of people don't have, I don't know, maybe it's a gift, but it's not horseshit, because I've had other people, I said, don't buy that car, it's got a bad engine. Next thing I know, they're telling me, oh, I got it home, I used it for work, and it's knocking. Well, yeah. And years ago, they used to have tricks with putting all kinds of thick oil in them, even putting sawdust inside a transmission that slips or an engine that knocks. There were a lot of old-time tricks, because we used to find it. I don't know, what was that, my 55, before I put the 283 in it. I had a 55 Chevy Apache. And before when I took the motor out of it and I took the pan off, I was like, what the hell is this goo in here? Well, it was STP and sawdust, real fine sawdust. And that will cushion a bearing that it did. When I gave the guy $500 for it, he was an old farmer. I gave him $500 for the truck, and it had the 283 in it. that I rebuilt, because I put my 283 version in it. And then I got the turbo 350 transmission because it had a 3-speed from hell in it. It was as bad as that gearing in this truck, and it would throw you every time you shifted. And I said, the hell with this. So I got a turbo 350 automatic, and I put that Hearst kit on the floor, and that was another fiasco, when you're a kid trying to figure out how to get that linkage hooked up and all that other stuff, and I'm cutting stuff like a monkey. Then I got to find a guy with a welder, and he really doesn't want to bother with me because I'm a kid and I don't have a whole lot of money. Well, that's a whole other thing. So believe me, do things for yourself. It costs money, okay? And you can do this, okay? Here's a sealed puller, okay? That's all I used. This got the plug out, and I did heat the plug. Always heat your plug before stripping it out, especially if it's got a lot of dirt and gunk. Clean it out on the inside so you can get this in. It's just a pipe plug, and you spin it out. But always heat it, because sometimes the corrosion and stuff that's on the axle, you're going to strip it out before you're going to break it loose when it's cold. That's a lot of things that people don't use. I see it in videos. Or they're working on those cars from way down south where they don't really have corrosion and rust like we do here in the Rust Belt, and stuff just comes right apart. Because like I said, I was amazed that yoke just basically fell off in my hand with one little, I just, whoop, and it come right off. So that's where we go with my videos, and that's why I don't make lengthy videos. You don't need to see me work on this, and especially if I screw something up. But anyway, I'm going to tap that seal in there, and I'm going to force the rest of that bad fluid out of there. And it's probably going to take me, it takes quite a while. Don't think that this bottle's just going to go right in there, because it's thick. A lot of times, I let this sit by my heater in there. It's too warm for the wood stove, and the fluid gets a little bit thinner under the heat, and it flows a little bit easier. So that's another trick. But it's going to take a good 15-20 minutes to empty this bottle at times. So there's my video. You guys have a good weekend, and this is what I do. I'm getting dirty, and I got to go and get another set of gloves to put that oil in. But anyway, I'm going to make sure I got all that oil out. Try to force as much of that garbage that's in there out. It'll come right out where you took the seal out. Take the seal out first. Don't try it with the seal in. Take that seal out, and just don't gun that air thing, because you're going to wear the shit, or it's going to be all over your cat. Like my cat was under there with me. He's a very inquisitive young pussy cat, that orange one. I don't know if he was in the video here. He's been around. He likes being out with me too. Like Chucky's down over. He's waiting for the squirrel to come out. He's chasing the squirrels. So that's all you need to do. The seal, in Pinion, and I'm going to try to get the front one done today yet too. Thanks.